Sandra Cisneros, an American author and cultural icon, was born in Chicago on December 20th, 1954. Her early years heavily influenced the writing that brought her notoriety, such as her experience as being the only girl in her family, having 6 brothers, and her family constantly migrating between Mexico and the United States, all of which heightened her feelings of loneliness and not belonging. But it was these very conditions that ultimately became the foundations of her voice in writing. Her mother was an avid reader, and although she was well informed, she had limited opportunities to be all that she could be as a married Latina. Despite her restrictions, however, she still influenced her daughter Sandra tremendously. When Cisneros was 11, her family moved to a Puerto Rican neighborhood on Chicago's west side. This neighborhood would one day inspire her to write House on Mango Street. While growing up in this neighborhood, she attended an all-girl Catholic school, Josephinum Academy. There, she found her next level of support in a teacher that encouraged her to write poetry. By the end of her high school career, she was the literary magazine editor and as voracious a writer as her mother was a reader. But it wasn't until she took her first creative writing class in college in 1974 that she began to find her voice. In high school, she modeled other famous poets. But while in college, she began the process of writing what she had to say to the world through her own lens, through her own experiences. Ultimately, the challenges of her early years did not stop her from excelling in life. In fact, her experiences gave her fuel. She obtained a Bachelor's of Arts in English from Loyola University of Chicago in 1976 and an MFA in Creative Writing in 1978 from the University of Iowa. Over the years, she's worked as a teacher, a counselor, a college recruiter, a poet in schools, an art administrator, and a visiting writer at a number of universities. In 1982, Cisneros received a National Endowment of the Arts Fellowship and traveled to Europe, where she ultimately wrote her first book, which she is most notable for, House on Mango Street. It was published in 1984, and through a series of vignettes, Cisneros shares her version of the Chicano life experience through the thematic lenses of social class, identity, race, equity, and gender. Her old neighborhood. Additional works like Woman Hollering Creek and Other Stories, Loose Woman, and Caramello, to name a few, provide a lens of the challenges of Chicana identity, especially when one is immersed in 2 separate cultures and in 2 separate spaces. She has also maintained fidelity to the community of writers by being the president and founder of the Macondo Foundation, an association of writers dedicated to social change. In 2021, Cisneros was inducted into Chicago's Literary Hall of Fame and received the Fuller Award for Lifetime Achievement, named after author Henry Blake Fuller, whose works are considered to be some of the first examples of American realism. Fuller's works rebelled against the status quo, and thus a befitting award for Sandra Cisneros. From isolation to a source of inspiration, Sandra Cisneros is indeed a force to be reckoned with.